So, I want you to try something for me.
Okay.
Wherever you are right now, I mean, maybe you're driving, maybe you're at the gym, or, just sitting on your couch. Look at the closest object to you. Let's say it's a coffee table. You see wood, maybe some glass, legs holding it up. Your brain just immediately categorizes it. Table?
Yeah.
It's a solid object. It takes up space. If you kick it, it hurts. That's the reality we live in, right? The world of things.
That is certainly the user interface we interact with every day.
The UI, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But today, we're not talking about the UI. We're not even talking about the wood or the glass or the atoms that make up that table.
No.
I want to peel back the layer underneath the atoms. Imagine if you could look behind the physical reality of that table and see the source code that tells the universe a table is even possible.
We aren't just peeling back a layer there. We are tearing up the floorboards. Today isn't about the furniture in the room.
No.
It's about the architectural blueprint that defines what a room is in the first place.
And when I say blueprint, I don't mean that as a metaphor. We are diving into a stack of documents today that, well, honestly, they made my brain hurt in the best possible way.
I can relate to that.
It's called the RP910 framework, put together by Anton Wallen and a team of co-creators. And I have to be honest, when I first opened these files, I thought I was looking at some kind of obscure computer manual.
It has that feel, doesn't it?
It does. It's full of diagrams and code snippets and all these geometric shapes. But it claims to be a relational primacy framework for reality itself.
It is a dense read, to say the least.
Yeah.
But that term, relational primacy, that's really the key. That's the key to unlocking the whole thing.
Okay, so what does that actually mean?
Well, most of us go through life thinking that things are primary. An atom exists, a star exists, a person exists, and then once those things exist, they interact with each other. They form relationships.
Right. I exist, you exist, and then we shake hands. The people come first. The handshake comes second.
Exactly. That is the standard materialist view. This framework, it flips that entirely on its head.
How so?
It argues that the relationship, the handshake, is the primary reality. The things, you and me, are just the secondary byproducts of that relationship.
Okay, wait. That sounds completely backward. How can a relationship exist without things to relate? I mean, that's like saying a marriage exists before the spouses do.
And that is the paradox we're going to spend the next hour unpacking. Because if you follow the logic of this framework, it actually begins to make a scary amount of sense.
Right.
We're dealing with a source text that treats reality like software. It uses terms like meta-BIOS, matrix expansion, and ASCII sandbox.
BIOS stands for basic input-output system, right? It's that really primitive code on a computer motherboard that loads before Windows or Mac OS even wakes up.
That's the one.
It tells the hardware how to be a computer.
Correct. And this framework posits that our universe has a meta-BIOS, a set of, geometric rules that run in the background, determining the laws of physics, the speed of light, the nature of gravity, long before any physical matter appears.
So it's a pretty bold claim that constant, the speed of light, aren't just random numbers we discovered, but the result of a specific software running a specific program.
It's a fundamental reframing.
But before we get into the heavy geometry, and we are going to get into it, we need to talk about the README file.
We do.
Because usually when someone claims to have the code to reality, it's, either a cult or a conspiracy theory.
It's usually a red flag, yes. But the README in the RP9 materials is surprisingly grounded.
It really is.
It starts with a massive disclaimer. It explicitly states that this is a model of relational potential. It is not claiming to be absolute dogmatic fact. It's not a religious text demanding faith. And it's not a physics paper claiming empirical measurement.
Yeah, I like that part a lot. It basically says, look, we aren't telling you what an electron is. We are giving you a map of how information must flow if reality is a closed system.
It's an exercise in logical necessity. It's asking, if we start with absolutely nothing, what are the logical steps required to get to something? And it warns against the didactic risk, the danger of confusing the map for the territory. So as we go through this, we have to keep that in mind. We are looking at the wireframe of reality, not the reality itself.
Oh, wireframe. I like that. Okay, so let's start where the framework starts. The absolute bottom, level 0. The text calls it the 0 point, or null nivore.
The state of absolute potential.
Now, When I think of zero or nothing, I usually picture empty space, like the dark void between stars. But that's not really nothing, is it?
No, not at all. That's just empty space. Space is something, it has dimensions, it has distance, it can be here or there in space.
Right.
The 0 point described in the RP9 framework is much more abstract. It is the absence of everything, including space and time. It is friction-free. It is perfectly symmetrical.
So you can't even say it's dark, because darkness implies light exists somewhere else. You can't say it's cold.
Precisely. And here is the kicker. It is impossible to observe.
Because there's nothing to see.
It's deeper than that.
Yeah.
It's because there is no you to see it. Observation requires a differential. It requires a subject, the observer, and an object, the observed. You need a separation.
A difference.
Yes. In the 0 point, everything is unity. It's a singularity of potential. If everything is one, there is no contrast. No up, no down, no self, no other.
It's like trying to see your own eye without a mirror. You can't do it because you are the eye.
That is a great analogy. So the fundamental problem of creation, whether you're a theologian or a geometrician, is how do you break that symmetry? How do you get a result out of a system that is perfectly balanced and still?
The first move.
The first move. And this is where the geometry starts. The text introduces the first relation. And it uses a shape that I'm sure you've seen 1,000 times in logos, religious art, even architecture, the Vesica Piscis.
The Vesica Piscis. Oh, the Venn diagram shape.
Basically, yes. But let's visualize how we get there. Start with that 0 point. Let's represent it as a circle. The source text calls this the whole. It contains everything, but it's just one thing.
Okay, I'm picturing a single circle, a perfect unity.
Now, to create information, that circle has to relate to something. But there's nothing else. So it relates to itself.
How does it do that?
It copies itself. Now imagine a second circle, identical to the first. It shifts position just enough so that the center of the new circle rests exactly on the circumference of the first circle.
Okay, so they are overlapping, and the center of one is on the edge of the other. They're locked.
They're locked together, and where they overlap, you get that almond shape in the middle. That is the Vesica Piscis.
Why is this specific shape the big bang of this framework? Why not just two circles side by side or on top of each other?
Because if they're side by side, they're just two separate things, two distinct objects. If they're on top of each other, they're one thing again. You've lost the difference. But when they overlap in this specific way, you create a trinity. You have circle A, the self, circle B, the other, and the intersection, the relationship.
You've created differentiation.
Exactly. For the first time, you have an inside and an outside. You have a shared space and a separate space. You have generated information out of pure potential. And you did it without grabbing anything from outside the universe, because there is no outside.
This seems to be the core theme here. The system has to build itself using only itself. It's self-contained.
Which leads us to the most critical law in the RP9 documents, the halva-halva principle.
Which translates from Swedish as half-half, right?
Yes, and it's a beautiful, simple concept. Think about what we just did with the circles. We didn't add a new circle from a store. We divided the potential of the first one.
We split it.
In a closed system, which reality must be, you cannot add. You can only divide.
Wait, hold on. This feels counterintuitive. We usually think of the universe expanding, growing, getting bigger. You're saying it's actually just cutting itself into smaller pieces.
Think about thermodynamics. The first law of thermodynamics says energy cannot be created or destroyed.
Right. It's conserved.
The total amount of energy in the universe is constant. It's a fixed pie.
Okay, so the size of the pie never changes.
Right. So if you want 2 slices, you have to cut the 1 pie in half. If you want 4 slices, you cut the halves. This is the halva-halva rule. 1 becomes 1/2, then 1/4, then 1/8.
So complexity.
Yes. The richness of the world we see isn't the result of more stuff being added. It's the result of the original stuff being divided into finer and finer resolutions.
So evolution, galaxy formation, me learning to play the guitar, that's all just the universe slicing the pizza into thinner slices.
In a geometric sense, yes. It is an increase in granularity, not an increase in total energy. The system remains reference closed.
Reference closed is a phrase that pops up a lot. Can we dig into that? What does that mean in practice?
It means the system provides its own context. It doesn't need an outside observer. Imagine a dictionary. You look up a word, and the definition uses other words.
Sure.
You look up those words, and they use other words. Eventually, if you follow it long enough, you loop back around. The dictionary is a closed system of meaning. It doesn't rely on the physical world to define cat. It relies on other words like animal and feline.
And the RP9 framework says the universe is like that dictionary. It doesn't need a god or an observer standing outside of it to make it real.
It defines itself by relating to itself.
Wow.
The Vesica Piscis is the first definition in the dictionary. And from there, the definitions just get more and more complex.
Okay, so we have two circles. We have a flat 2D relationship, but I'm looking at my hand right now, and it has depth. I can move it forward and backward. How do we get from flat circles to 3D space?
We have to scale up. We followed the doubling process, the halve-halve principle in action.
So we double the two circles.
We went from 1 circle to 2. Now we verify that relationship by doubling it. 2 circles become 4.
And I can picture that it's like a flower pattern. 4 overlapping circles making a little clover shape.
Right. That gives you a stable plane. It's a square foundation. But here is where the problem arises. If you keep adding circles to a flat sheet of paper, eventually you run out of room. The lines start crossing over each other. The relationships get muddy.
The signal-to-noise ratio gets bad.
Exactly. The system hits a saturation point. To maintain the integrity of the relationships, to keep self distinct from other, the system has to find a new place to put the data.
It needs a server upgrade.
It needs a new dimension. And this is one of the most fascinating claims of the framework. 3D space is a relational offloading.
Whoa. Relational offloading. Okay, unpack that. That implies that space isn't a place, but a solution to a problem.
Yes. Think of a pop-up book.
Right.
When it's closed, it's 2D. All the information is compressed and overlapping. It's a mess.
Right, it's just a flat page.
But when you open it, when you expand it into the third dimension, everything separates. The castle stands up, the dragon pops out. You can suddenly see every part clearly.
So the universe popped up into 3D because the 2D plan got too crowded with data.
That is the logic. The system doubled from 4 circles to 8 circles. And 8 is the magic number here. The text calls it the core 8.
Why 8? Why is that the tipping point? Is it just the next step in the doubling sequence?
It is, but there's a geometric reason it's so important. Because when you overlap 8 circles in this specific geometric flower pattern, you generate exactly 32 relational nodes.
And a node is just an intersection point, a place where the lines cross.
Yes, a specific point where lines cross. And geometrically, 32 points is the minimum number of vertices you need to define a stable 3D volume. You physically cannot build a resolution of 3D space with fewer points in this system.
So 8 circles is the minimum viable product for reality.
It creates the container. And once you have that container, you apply the halve-halve principle one more time to fill it. You take that structure of 32 nodes, and you realize the negative space, the voids, they imply another 32.
And you get 64.
The cubic manifestation, a
Yeah.
4x4x4 grid.
And 64 is a number that should make any pattern recognizer's ears perk up.
It really should.
Oh, absolutely. My mind immediately went to computing. 64-bit processors. That's a huge leap in power.
Go older. Think more fundamental.
Biology. DNA.
DNA. The genetic code is written in codons, triplets of nucleotides. How many possible combinations of codons are there?
I think I know where this is going.
Exactly 64.
And the I Ching, the ancient Chinese book of changes, it's built on 64 hexagrams. That's eerie.
The RP9 framework argues this is not a coincidence. It suggests that 64 is the frequency or the resolution limit of the matrix. It's like the pixel density of the screen.
So you're saying that once you have 64 relational nodes, you have enough complexity to build anything. You don't need 128 or 256 basic building blocks.
You have the complete alphabet of reality.
So let's recap this journey so far. We started with nothing, absolute potential.
The 0 point.
We split it to make relation using the Vesica Piscis. We doubled it until it got too crowded in 2D, so it popped into 3D.
Relational offloading.
And that 3D structure settled into a stable grid of 64 nodes.
Correct. But right now, we just have a sculpture. We have a static, crystalline structure of overlapping circles. It's beautiful, but it's frozen. It's not a universe yet because nothing is happening.
It's a computer that's plugged in but hasn't been turned on.
We need to boot the system. We need physics.
This moves us into the matrix expansion document. And this is where the text challenges our understanding of what physics actually is. It doesn't call them laws, it calls them geometric instructions.
This is a crucial shift in thinking. Standard physics measures constants. We measure the speed of light as approximately 300,000 kilometers per second. We measure gravity. We measure the charge of an electron.
We know what they are.
We know what they are, but we struggle to explain why they are those specific numbers. Why isn't the speed of light 400,000 kilometers per second?
Right. It's called the fine-tuning problem. If those numbers were slightly different, atoms wouldn't hold together, stars wouldn't burn, and we wouldn't be here to talk about it.
The RP9 framework offers a solution. Those numbers are determined by the geometry of the grid we just built. They are software limits.
So they're not random.
They're necessary. And it starts with a number I had never paid attention to before.
Yeah.
1.085.
The pivot constant. I have to admit, when I saw this, my skepticism alarm went off.
Oh, I understand.
1.085. It feels random. It feels like numerology, where you just find a number you like and assign some mystical meaning to it.
I felt the same way initially. But let's look at the logic the text presents. It's not about the number itself, but what it represents geometrically. It describes 1.085 as the activation threshold.
Like the boiling point of water. Water is calm until 100 degrees Celsius, then it goes crazy.
Similar. Think of the tension in the grid we built. You have the self, linear energy, represented by 1, and the other, circular energy, represented by 0. The text decodes 1.085 geometrically.
Okay, break it down for me.
1 is the line, the straight path.
Okay.
0 is the circle, the loop.
Right.
8 is the circuit, the interconnected figure 8 loops of the structure.
Like an infinity symbol.
And 5 is the center node, the point of pivot.
So it's a set of instructions. Take the line, 1, go through the circle, 0, into a figure 8 loop, 8, around the center, 5.
That is the hypothesis. 1.085 represents the moment the tension between the linear and circular forces becomes too great for the system to remain static. The symmetry breaks.
The dam bursts.
The potential energy transforms into kinetic energy. The static crystal starts to flow.
It's the start button.
And once it starts flowing, it encounters a speed limit.
Light speed, $1.
But again, forget the idea of a little photon particle traveling through a vacuum. In this framework is the matrix update rate.
That makes me think of video games. If I'm playing a shooter game running at 60 frames per second, my character physically cannot move faster than the game can draw him on the screen.
That is the perfect analogy. The matrix is a grid of 64 nodes. The system has to calculate the relationship status of every node to every other node. That takes processing cycles.
It's doing math.
It's doing relational math. And the solars is simply the maximum speed at which the geometry can refresh itself across the entire grid.
So the reason you can't go faster than light isn't because of drag or gaining infinite mass or whatever. It's because you'd be moving into a frame that hasn't been rendered yet. The game world literally doesn't exist out there yet.
You would outrun the processor. And the logic goes even deeper. The text mentions a 720-degree loop requirement for a full reset.
This one confused me. A circle is 360 degrees. If I spin around once, I'm back where I started. Why does the system need 720 degrees, 2 full spins to reset?
Because the system has volume and orientation. It's what physicists call spinor behavior.
It's spinor behavior. Okay, can we dumb that down?
Let's try a physical experiment. If you can, do this with me. Hold your right hand out in front of you, palm up.
Okay.
Imagine you're holding a cup of coffee and you absolutely cannot spill it.
Okay, palm up holding the imaginary coffee. Got it.
Now, I want you to rotate your hand inward towards your body and try to make a full circle without spilling. You have to pass it under your armpit.
Oh, this is awkward. Okay, doing it. Ow! My elbow is twisted up in the air, but my palm is facing up again. That's 360 degrees.
Exactly. You've done one full rotation, but look at your arm. It's twisted. You are not back to the zero state. The system is stressed.
It's silly stressed, yeah.
Now, keep rotating in the same direction. Pass the hand over your head and bring it back to the front.
Okay, twisting, untwisting, and back. My arm is straight again.
How many degrees was that in total?
That was 2 full circles, 720 degrees.
That is why the update rate is so critical. In a complex, entangled geometric system like our reality, a simple 360-degree spin doesn't resolve the tension. It actually maximizes the twist. You need a second pass to restore equilibrium.
Wow.
Light speed is the limit of how fast that double cycle can happen.
That is wild. So the twist in my arm, that's the tension holding the universe together.
In a way, yes. If the system could reset instantly, nothing would exist for any duration. It would just be a flicker, a constant return to zero.
But it can't.
It can't. The delay, the time it takes to do that 720-degree loop is what creates this sensation of time.
So we have the engine running, we have a speed limit, but why does anything stick together? Why doesn't this spinning energy just fly apart into chaos?
We need friction. And we need a return spring. This is where alpha and gravity come in.
Alpha is the fine structure constant, right? 1/137, roughly. Physicists obsess over this number because it defines how strong electromagnetism is.
Yes, if it were different, matter as we know it wouldn't hold its shape.
So what is it in this model?
The RP9 framework rebrands alpha as geometric friction.
Friction. Usually we think of friction as a bad thing. It slows down my car. It wastes energy.
But without friction, You couldn't drive the car. The wheels would just spin in place. Friction is necessary for traction.
Good point.
In the metabios, alpha is the stickiness that prevents information from slipping back into the 0 point immediately. It captures the energy from that 720-degree spin and holds it in the illusion of existence long enough to be experienced.
It's the drag that makes reality feel solid.
Correct. And then you have gravity. The text defines gravity as inverted feedback.
Inverted feedback. That sounds like an audio term, like when a microphone gets too close to a speaker.
It's a similar principle. Think about the flow. Light is expansion. It's the system writing data out to the edges of the grid. It's the output.
Okay, information going out.
Gravity is the input. It's a return signal. It's the feedback loop.
So light pushes out, gravity pulls back in.
It's the cleanup crew. It's the save function. If light is the radiation of information, gravity is the collection of that information back toward the center. That's why gravity is associated with mass and concentration. It's the system trying to resolve the equation back to 1.
So we have a breathing universe. Expands with light, contracts with gravity, and it's all held together by the friction of alpha.
A perfect, self-sustaining loop. But this loop creates a massive philosophical problem. A structural crisis, really.
What's the crisis? It sounds like it's working pretty well.
The conflict between change and identity.
Meaning?
Well, if the universe is purely an engine, constantly spinning, updating, refreshing at the speed of light, then everything's in flux. Nothing is stable. How can an electron stay an electron for billions of years? How can you be you if your geometry is constantly rewriting itself?
Right. There's no persistence. But on the other hand, if everything is perfectly stable and frozen, then nothing happens. No time, no life, no change.
Exactly. We need both. We need a motor and an anchor. This brings us to segment 4, the engine versus the archive, or in the framework's terms, core 8 versus core bit.
Okay, let's distinguish these. Core 8 we talked about. That's the 8 overlapping circles, the engine.
The core 8 is driven by asymmetry. The source material highlights a geometric conflict within that structure between a 120-degree angle and a 90-degree angle.
A 30-degree mismatch. A flaw in the design.
Or a feature. That mismatch is the kick.
Yeah.
The system wants to close the gap, but the geometry won't let it. So it spins. It's a perpetual motion machine driven by its own imperfection. That asymmetry is the source of all time and movement.
Okay, so imperfection drives the universe. I like that. But where is the anchor? Where's the stability?
That's the core bit. This is the structure that sits at the center of the storm. The text describes it as supersymmetric and, crucially, view invariant.
View invariant. That means no matter what angle you look at it from, it looks the same.
Yes. The simplest analogy is a sphere. From any angle, it's a circle. Core bit is a more complex version of that. It is the geometric standard that never changes. It locks the system.
So it's the Constitution.
It is the Constitution to the core 8's politics. Politics changes every day. The Constitution stays the same to define the rules of the game.
So the engine, the core 8, it spins around the archive, the core bit.
And they are locked in a perfect 50-50 balance. The text calls this the bridge. The stability of our reality comes from this perfect tension between the chaos of the engine and the order of the archive.
It's like a gyroscope.
Yeah.
The outer ring is spinning like crazy, creating momentum and energy, but the inner core is perfectly still, and that stillness is what allows the whole thing to stay upright and have a consistent reality.
Precisely. If the archive failed, reality would dissolve into white noise. If the engine failed, reality would freeze into a crystal. We exist in the sweet spot between the two.
And speaking of existing, we have to talk about where we exist. We aren't in the core. We aren't in the wires. We are in the simulation. This leads us to the ASCII sandbox.
This is the part of the source material that is visually the most striking. The Appendix ASCII.
It really is. It looks like old school computer art from the 80s. No fancy graphics, just text characters, circles, arrows, plus signs, minus signs, and it maps out this huge fractal tree.
It's a flowchart of creation, a decision tree for the universe. It starts at level 0, which is just labeled the meta.
Potential.
Then you go to level 1, which has transformations like halving, doubling, rotation. By level 3, you see the physics we just talked about, alpha book, appearing as branches on the tree, labeled as potential consequences.
But then we get to level 8, the interactive sandbox. The text describes this as a simulation game.
And this is where the user enters the picture. The framework suggests that once the system reaches a certain level of complexity, level 8, it opens up a space for interaction.
It's like a choose-your-own-adventure book.
That is the best analogy for it. Think about how those books work. You start at page 1, you read a bit, and then you have a choice. If you want to go into the cave, turn to page 40. If you want to run away, turn to page 50.
I love those books. But here is the catch. I can choose the page, but I can't rewrite the text on the page. The outcomes are pre-written.
Exactly. And this is the distinction the framework makes between primary laws and secondary consequences. You, as the user in the sandbox, have agency. You can choose to have or double. You can choose compassion or conflict. Those choices branch off into new realities. You can create infinite stories.
But I can never break the binding of the book. I can never change the fact that the Vesica Piscis is the source code. I can't change the speed of light.
You cannot change the metabios. You cannot change the rule that relation precedes thing. The ASCII tree uses a plus sign for coherent choices that reinforce the system and a minus sign for limiting or balancing choices. Every choice you make resonates up and down the tree.
So we are playing a game where the physics engine is locked, but the gameplay is open world.
Procedural generation. The code is simple. Split, rotate, connect.
Yeah.
But if you run that code trillions of times, combined with user choices, you get galaxies, you get politics, you get Shakespeare, you get this deep dive.
It's humbling. We are playing in a sandbox built by geometry.
But there's a warning in the text, too. A critique of how we try to understand this sandbox. Segment 6. Notations critique.
Notation criticism.
The author, Anton Wallen, seems pretty frustrated with modern mathematics here.
He argues that we have a fundamental translation error. We are trying to measure a curved rotational reality with straight rulers.
Linear versus circular.
Humans are obsessed with lines, grids, the XYZ axis of Cartesian coordinates, integers like 1, 2, 3. It's intuitive for us.
Right, it's how we build buildings.
But the RP9 framework argues that reality is fundamentally rotational. It's all circles and loops and spins.
So when we try to squash a circle onto a straight line, what happens?
You get residue. You get numbers that don't fit our neat integer system.
We call them irrational numbers, like 2.2,
Yeah.
3.14159, and it just goes on forever. We treat Tylenol like it's this mystical infinite number, a fundamental constant of the universe. But the framework says, no, Tylenol is just a geometric lock.
A lock? What does that mean?
It's the artifact of translation. It is the friction caused by forcing a rotation, a curve, into a linear value. The fact that the number never ends and never repeats isn't because the universe is infinitely complex in that way. It's because the translation from circular to linear is impossible to complete perfectly.
It's like trying to flatten an orange peel onto a table. You can't do it without tearing it or stretching it.
Exactly. The tears and stretches are the irrational numbers. Square root of 2, the square root of 3, the golden ratio pi. They are the proof that rotation is primary. The straight line is just what's left over when you look at a circle from the side.
That blows my mind. We think our math is describing the universe, but really, our math is just describing our own inability to think in circles.
We're mapping the globe on a flat sheet of paper and wondering why Greenland looks so big. The distortion is in the map, not the territory.
So we've been on quite a journey here. We started with the 0-point absolute silence. We split it with the Vesica Piscis. We scaled it up to a 64-node grid to create 3D space. We jump-started the engine with that 1.085 threshold. We hit the speed limit of $, the matrix update rate.
We did.
We locked it down with the Corbit archive to keep it stable. And now we find ourselves in the ASCII sandbox, playing the game.
It is a complete cosmology from start to finish.
And the biggest takeaway for me, the thing I keep coming back to, is that concept of the closed system.
The halva principle.
Yeah.
You can't add anything.
It feels, I don't know, lonely, but also empowering. There is no external battery. There is no wizard behind the curtain pulling levers. The system runs itself.
It solves the infinite regress problem. You know, the who created God and who created the guy who created God question.
Right. It's turtles all the way down.
In a self-referential geometric system, you don't need an outside creator.
Yeah.
The system creates itself through the act of differentiation. The geometry is the observer. The relationship is the observation.
Which brings me to the final thought I want to leave everyone with. And I want to get your take on this because it wasn't explicitly in the text, but it feels like the logical conclusion of all this.
Go on.
The text talks about secondary manifestations, that everything we touch, the table I mentioned at the start, the coffee, even our bodies, is just secondary. It's the exhaust of the engine.
Yes, the shadows on the cave wall.
So if reality is just the output of a relational code, what does that make us? Are we just the code? Are we just complex loops of ones and zeros executing a script? Or are we the user mentioned in level 8?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? If we are just the code, then we are deterministic. We are clockwork. We have no free will. We are just executing the have or double command based on what happened before.
But if we are the user?
Then we are something else.
Yeah.
Something that interfaces with the geometry but isn't entirely bound by it. The text implies the sandbox is interactive. That implies agency.
So maybe the purpose of the whole machine, the 0 point, the expansion, the friction, that crazy 720-degree spin, is just to build a stage stable enough for us to stand on and make a choice.
To allow relation to become experience. Because without the friction of the sandbox, love is just geometry. With the sandbox, it's something real.
Wow, okay. I'm going to need to go stare at a tree for a while and try to see the wireframe. This has been a heavy one.
It's a framework that demands a lot, but it gives a lot back.
And thank you for guiding us through the metabios. And to you listening. Next time you see a circle or a Venn diagram or just spill your coffee, remember the 720-degree spin. The universe is working hard to keep you here. We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Stay curious.